I'm Talia, and I'm here with my correspondent from the world of K-12, Dami. And we have the incredible pleasure of getting to talk to you, Frank, and to learn more about the work you do as a futurist, and in particular to ask you questions and to get your perspective on what we can be thinking about, not just in the immediate as we live with and daily experience uncertainty, but about how we look ahead to rebuilding and to centering that rebuilding in a space of equity, centering on the potential of all kids and what the world can look like when we come out of this. It doesn't have to be the same world we had before, but can actually take into account and hope for the types of changes that we may have all been working toward, but not necessarily seeing as realistic in our lifetimes. So with that, I'd love to take just a minute to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about who you are, the work you do, and why you do it. What animates and excites you about the work you get to do?
Certainly. So thank you so much, Talia and Donnie, for having me today and us to get the chance to do this interview. As you said, my name is Frank Spencer. From very young, I always knew that I was very excited about what the future might hold. And when we think about the future, we think about technology mostly. And that's actually, I think, very important for our conversation today, because our technology is a good thing and it can do a lot of great things. And as a matter of fact, you guys focus a lot on STEM teachers. And so technology is very important to your constituents and your stakeholders and those you serve and those who are in your realm. But at the same time, technology is not the only thing about the future, right? As a matter of fact, actually, the future is about humans. The future is about people. And of course, our connection with the larger world and the animal world and our ecology and our planet, our climate. But I often say the future is about people, and I hear the air being sucked out of the room, because usually if I'm with technologists, what do you mean the future is not about, our wearables and the technology we have? Of course it is. But it's really about people and how they will build technology, how they'll use it, how they'll misuse it. And political systems as well, social systems, economic, environmental.
I was saying earlier that one of the things that gives me hope right now is the possibility that after the flood, we make choices about how we rebuild, right? The proverbial flood. And that it has swept some things clean, and it has revealed other things that were hiding under the surface, but there was turmoil there all along. And my question for you is, how would you guide these folks, this community of activists and change makers that have come together around this goal of 100,000 excellent STEM teachers in 10 years? How would you counsel this community to think about rebuilding with equity at the center, with hope and possibility for all kids and all communities at the center?
Yeah. So we have a phrase here, and that is democratize the future. We also talk about democratizing foresight. They're a little bit different. Democratizing foresight is about helping everybody to gain the skill, the methodologies, the tools, the mental technologies to think this way. And there are ways to do that, actually, rather than just brainstorming about what might be. But I think that other side is even more important. Democratizing the future is really participatory foresight. How do we lift up and put on a pedestal what I would call the voices from the future? And so one of the things that irks me more than anything else is this campaign that's been going on for a long time about, and by the way, millennials are all in their 40s and 30s now, so we act like millennials are still kids, but it's very strange. But we, oh, those darn millennials, they're so lazy and all of this stuff and everything. One of the hardest working generations you'll ever meet. They've had to inherit all of the garbage, and they're, they do it amazing. And the generation coming after them are already primed to be activists. So why are we not democratizing the future? What does that mean? That means getting those who are least heard to be the voices, and empowering them to guide us into what needs to come. And so there needs to be this concerted effort to democratize the future among the unheard voices, among the at-risk community and the underserved communities. And we can't just continue to stay in a space where only the privileged get to be the ones who speak into existence where we're going and what unfolds about the future. We've got to like have actual community practices and initiatives where we actually get that participatory voice, the voice of the unheard, the voice of the forgotten, to be the voice of the future. And I think that's so critical for us to do. STEM teachers hold a huge space to be able to do that. And to be able to, you know, that would be their initiative. The other thing I thought about when you said that I think is so critical is the end result of an acorn. If you're like, oh my gosh, I have an acorn and I love my acorn and it's amazing and I'm gonna make 1,000,000 acorns. And that acorn is like, you big dummy. Inside of me is not 1,000,000 acorns, inside of me is an oak tree. And so we have to be able to see what is in our DNA. What wants to emerge out of our amazing basket of acorns that we have right now that we call STEM education, and what we've known about it and what we've done about it up to now. By the way, there is this concept called educated incapacity. I have it, you have it, we all have it. Don't anybody be offended by this. Take this in the best possible light. Educated incapacity is knowing so much about what you know that you're really the last to know what's changing. The illusion of certainty, right? I have it too. So don't be offended by that. It just means that I need to prep myself and those voices that are unheard, who are probably don't have as much educated incapacity as we have, to open up these spaces for the oak tree to come out, where we just keep thinking, more acorns, I just need another acorn. If I can have 100,000 acorns, which we did need 100,000 acorns, what is the DNA of STEM to become next? We still need 100,000 STEM teachers. We need more than that. We need it for it to be in the underserved community, but there's something even more. And this opportunity has given us a chance to be more than just resilient, but to embrace uncertainty, to dance with uncertainty, to be transformationalists, and to think about what to build next. Don't just try to go build the same thing or say, this is a great chance for us to build what we wanted to build and get those systems out of the way. It's something more. And I'm gonna leave that to you guys to figure that out. But I want you to have this futures thinking thought that there's something more that wants to come forth during this time, not just more of the same, not better of the same, but something new. The nature of the future is changing.
Right now, so many of our partners, so many people working with and supporting teachers and schools and communities are dancing, to use your metaphor, between crisis management and planning for the day-to-day and trying to look ahead, both even a little bit ahead to the 2020-21 school year and what that's going to mean for students who are recovering from trauma and coming back together, but also to this oak tree. What is possible now that wasn't possible before? How do you counsel people, and how might you counsel us to think both about the immediate and the future?
We have to take a moment to breathe. And it's so important to do that if we're going to build transformational futures. Because if we just keep trying to run headlong into, oh my gosh, the kids don't have time to breathe. I mean, that's how we make trauma really trauma, is that we just keep trying to go on as if nothing's changed without sitting with that for a moment and allowing that to be a part of who we are. Reality is, and the poet Rainer Rilke said, the future first enters into us before it manifests itself through us. The future is an experience that we have. As a matter of fact, they've even found out scientifically that the same areas of the brain that light up when we think about nostalgia in the past, and when I was a kid and the ice cream and going to the fair, those same areas of our brain light up when they do medical tests, but even greater when we have nostalgia for the future, when we think about what the future could be and creating the future. It's the same area of the brain, but it lights up even more when we think about the future and make the future, or have nostalgia for the future, make the future a part of what we can imagine. So it's important that we have that time to pause and have that grace, because if we don't, the future can't enter into us in order to manifest itself through us. And that's why we need to both pause and be with the moment and be present, but allow the future to enter into us in a way that it hasn't before. So we don't have used futures and dominant narratives of the future that we think that's how the future will always turn out. We have these official futures in our mind, and let this new future emerge from that space within. So both together, it's the same coin. It's not a dichotomy. We can pause and we can take a deep breath so that we can also not be resilient only or adaptive only, but transformative. Something new wants to emerge, and that's how we let it happen. the way you think about the future directly impacts the actions we take today. So future thinking is not about the future. Let's look at it and see if we got it right 10 years or 20 years from now. That's worthless. It's about changing the things we're doing today. Are we doing the right things today compared to what wants to unfold, what needs to transform? And in this environment that we're in today, we see that we need that more than ever before.